Good morning, and it's a lovely sunny morning. Just finished dropping the kids off to school, and I've got a full day of work, and I just thought I'd do a quick bit to camera because there's quite a bit going on at the moment, and there is a link to dentistry. Well, somewhat tenuous, but you will remember that I've always said that the problem with dentistry is that there's no the leadership is not meritocratic. You've got a bunch of people at the top, bunglers, who are pretending to direct operations with absolutely no knowledge or skill in the areas that where they have the authority within the Department of Health, and all the mechanisms to hold them to account, such as the health select committees, are all captured or incompetent. So for references, see previous videos. But talking in previous videos, let's just do a little bit of a quick travel back in time to December 2024 and the previous version of what I said on a previous version of this exact podcast. Anyone who says anything that the government doesn't like is being subject to increasingly swingeing penalties. A good example actually of the Labour approach is, there are two good examples. One is that at a time when it was almost, it was sticking out like the tail on a dog's bum that Kamala Harris was going to lose the presidential election, Labour Party sent along a load of Labour Party members to try and campaign for her. I don't know what they thought they were going to do. I mean, I thought they thought that Kamala Harris was losing because she didn't have enough boots on the ground, whereas in fact she is losing because she's a weapons grade moron. But George W. Bush won. The Americans, as I always say, have got a very proud history of electing weapons grade morons. So she could have won, and it would have been a disaster for, mainly the United States if she had, but she didn't. So that's all water under the bridge. But the government, the Labour Party was seen very overtly to be supporting the losing candidate, and then now find themselves in the embarrassing position of, having insulted Trump for the past 8 years, and now being in government at a time when they have to work with him. So they've sent Peter Mandelson over. I mean, God Almighty. I mean, first of all, I'm not surprised he's still alive because he always was a fairly young bloke. I mean, Jesus. Well, he's not. Mandelson is, we're all descended from Adam and Eve. Mandelson's descended from the snake. God knows what he's going to do. So, Mandelson is history now. And it's all coming out as to how the whole thing was handled. Basically, the way I look at it is this. The facts of the matter are that Starmer appointed him. He was warned to do the vetting in advance, but he didn't. He appointed him anyway. The vetting then came back with, we are very much on the balance of probabilities. We probably wouldn't say that he was suitable. In other words, that the risks that have been identified are probably not manageable, and we can't mitigate them. And yet by then he was already in position. So Starmer, who's the head of the Labour Party, has sacked Ollie somebody or other, who was the high up civil servant in the Foreign Office, who had in fact signed off on the appointment. And Starmer's now trying to say, I didn't know that things had gone so badly, and if I'd known they'd gone so badly, I wouldn't have appointed him. Now that is Starmer's story. It's not Ollie Robinson's story. Robinson's story is pretty much what I've just outlined, which is the whole thing was rushed through with inordinate haste. And it made me think of Mission Impossible, because Ollie Robinson was basically Tom Cruise. He's like well respected. I don't respect him. I think basically he's just another oleaginous, fork-tongued civil servant. You can't get a meaningful answer out of, and it didn't really change in front of the Defence Select Committee yesterday. But from what I could work out, the way it went down was this: Ollie Robinson was just sitting down, enjoying a nice cup of tea with 2 sugars, which he would have made a note of because everything in the civil service gets recorded. And he finds a cassette player on his desk, and on it is as a cassette which says that Ollie Robinson, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to get Peter Mandelson and one other mate of mine into the ambassador's job in America, plus whatever good job in the Foreign Office you can manage, but do not talk to the secretary, the Foreign Office secretary, about this. And in the event of this all coming to light, your mission, you will be disavowed. And then on that note, the cassette then self-destructs. So yesterday, Robinson was sitting in front of the Defence Select Committee with nothing other than a bit of melted plastic, telling this story of how he'd been given to understand that the appointment of Mandelson to Washington was top priority, and that vetting really was, although it was technically necessary, it was a bit of a afterthought, because Mandelson was a known quantity. Everybody in the Labour Party had known him. He'd been around for years, and it was mission impossible because he'd been given responsibility twice and sacked twice already before. That's why they had to ask Tom Cruise to try and do it through disguises and fake sets. In fact, if they'd made a fake set of Washington, including the embassy, and sent Mandelson to the fake set for a while, they would have been all right. But Robinson's sort of trying to say in Mandarin speak that he was put under a lot of pressure just to get it done. Get it effing done was the way that it was expressed. And vetting was very much not a foregone conclusion, because in the end, as I say, it was on the balance of probabilities. The vetting service said that he probably was not, shouldn't be given the job. But the way it worked was that although the vetting came back negative on balance, by then it was too late. He was in America and had been given the clearance to a lot of stuff, not necessarily high level stuff, although that came later. And then of course he got sacked again, and is now under investigation for misconduct in public office this time. So now, as I've just demonstrated from my lowly dental podcast from a year and a half ago practically, that Starmer should have seen that the appointment was a bad idea. Everyone else saw that the appointment was a bad idea. Even my humble self identified it as a bad idea. The Mars rover could see it was a bad idea, and yet Starmer went ahead and did it anyway. And the only person that could have made that happen was Starmer. Starmer must have said, this is what I want, make it so. Make it so. And so I think the two words that are not being mentioned at the moment, which should be mentioned far more, are plausible deniability. Starmer, I hope, by appointing Ollie Robbins of the Impossible Mission Force to get his friend into Washington. And he wanted a friend in Washington because he wanted to be able to ring him up on the down low and say, look, what's really going on? Can you give me through back channels? Can you let me know what's going on? He sort of trusted Mandelson. Mandelson's got this, as I say, this like that snake in the jungle book, Trust in me, just in me. Close your eyes. I'll probably get a copyright strike for that. They're so cunningly astoundingly like the film. Anyway, so but the IMF did what he asked, and then when it all came back that to maintain plausible deniability, Starmer sacked Ollie. But the problem is with the word plausible. The word deniability hangs on the qualifier, plausible. And it has to be plausible deniability. And in the debate on the House of Commons on Tuesday, I think it was Thursday today, isn't it? Or was it Wednesday? I don't know. Anyway, 2 days ago, there's a debate in the House of Commons where Starmer denied it all. Denied that he knew anything. If he'd known anything, he wouldn't have done it. If he'd known everything that he knows now, that he wouldn't have appointed him, that he'd been very, very badly let down. He's got shades of Princess Diana. Now, Starmer would have been preparing for that in the Commons, like a barrister would prepare. He would get, his minions would prepare a brief for him. He would go into that House of Commons chamber knowing that it was a 2-hour cross-examination, more or less. And I'm sure in his former job and all the jobs leading up to his appointment as Director of Public Prosecutions, he has spent 2 hours under cross-examination. And he's got the lawyer's ability to remain calm and to state that black is white and white is black. And to the point where, I think they pick it up at private school, where you more or less, you find yourself doubting your own, black is black, but you start to think, am I wrong? Is black not black? So, and that's what he did. He just responded to the whole thing like a lawyer. Now, Keir Starmer's had a lot of credit for restoring the Labour Party to power. I think Dominic Cummings deserves more credit because he planned the campaign and got the supermajority of seats and stuff like that. But Starmer managed to, really just hold the bag of cats, herd the cats, while Cummings did the electoral magic. And that's great. I mean, I'm by all means giving him credit for that, bringing the Labour Party from the brink. Although in a two-party system, you get one party's predominant, then everybody decides that they take a chance on the other party. Then they realise that they're still the same as they always were, so they go back to the other party. And so, it was pretty much inevitable after 14 years, as they say, that everyone was fed up with the Tories not doing what they want, so they'd rather have the Labour Party not doing what they want. But I think with all the will in the world, Starmer is not a good Prime Minister. I don't think he is. I think everyone says he's unduly absorbed in process. He's you know, he's not, he's decisive, but he's only decisive insofar as that he's willing to throw his colleagues under the bus rather than lose power himself. You know, I mean, the list is endless. Angela Rayner, Andy Burnham, you name it. Dominic Cummings, all of them. They've all gone by the by, so that Starmer can stay as the head. And he's, as a prime minister, he's just not a good prime minister. Nobody really knows what his policy is. He has to be. He's got a financial crisis on his hands, with everybody demanding, like from the special needs budget through to the military, demanding more money, and the Chancellor telling him that she's already on a knife edge, and she has not got any. In fact, she's already over the knife edge. I mean, she's already on a course to financial ruin. Because for I think they borrowed £5 billion last year, and of that £4 billion was just to pay the debt on the previous what they borrowed. So how are they going to pay the debt on the £5 billion that they've just borrowed? They have to borrow £6 billion. That's how debt spirals out of control. You know, that's how Hemingway said you go bankrupt, slowly but then quickly. So he's got no money to do anything with. So he's got a load of backbenchers who are highly delighted that they've been elected into power to do all the unrealistic stuff that they can't do without other people's money, only to be told that there is no other people's money left. You know, that brings Maggie Thatcher to mind. You know, socialism is a system that works extremely well until you run out of other people's money. And at the moment, the state is spending over 40%, due to go up to 44% of all the goods and services, all the value that's generated by this country out of all the work of all the people. I'm not including the people who work in the public sector, universities, teachers, and National Health Service. They don't contribute to the GDP. They're all funded out of the public, out of the private sector. But of all the money that's generated by the private sector, 44% of it is now spent by the government. And that is a record. You know, I mean, we literally would need to be in a major world war to have spent more than that in the past. So, you know, we're in a financial spiral, and you need to accept that. And mainly you have to understand that when we talk about dentistry, when we talk about when we talk about governance in dentistry, okay, we are not dealing with governance in the way that you and I would understand it in the context of our surgery. We're talking about it in the context of government, and government is governance of a very, very particular kind, where you go on, you can get in there, where it's all about bending the rules and doing things the way that, you know, your friends have asked you to, and not at all in the best way, and not in the most meritocratic way, where people get to be the ambassador to Washington, but not based on merit, in the same way as the chief dental officer is not appointed on merit, and the ministers for health are not appointed on merit, and the Secretary of State for Health is not appointed on merit. They're all there doing random shit randomly. So bear that in mind, all right, as you go to work today. You're just a sock in the tumble dryer of life. Anyway, I hope it's been a bit helpful. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.